Okay, so a text like this in Tibet would normally be shared with people who had a lot of knowledge already about the nature of Buddhism and some basic meditation practice. I think in these times, this kind of understanding and practice is very helpful, and so it becomes more available in Western countries. But from the Buddhist point of view, the motivation is very, very important. So there is an image that's used for how to think about Dharma. So they say you shouldn't think of Dharma or this kind of teaching and practice as being like a musk pod. It's worth a lot of money. And so don't think of the teacher as a musk deer. And don't think of yourself as a hunter. Rather, you should think that Dharma is the medicine. The teacher is like the doctor, and you are the patient. In our consumerist capitalist economy, everything is for sale. And we have a history of colonial exploitation. From what I understand, Estonia is more invaded than invading. But generally speaking, the idea that we can run around and steal things is quite popular. So it's the same with Dharma. The cult of mindfulness, which is spreading a lot in the West, is exactly like the musk pod cut off from the deer. In English, another way of translating the word mindful would be careful. This is how your mother taught you to be a bit mindful. Mother say, careful, look what you're doing. So this is the real meaning of mindfulness. It's a Pali word sati. In Tibetan is translated as dramba, which means memory. And memory is recollection. So one of the first things we need to do in mindfulness is to recollect that this has its root in Buddhist practice. Because if you forget the root, then confusion arises. Mindfulness can endlessly be repackaged as a commodity in the market without any sense that it belongs inside a particular kind of understanding. So in studying Dharma, they talk about 3 pot faults. If there is an upturned pot, you can't put anything into it. So if we're sitting here and you're thinking about something else, nothing can go in. The second fault is being like a pot with a hole in it. You hear something and it sounds interesting, but next day you haven't a clue what you heard. So it's a question how we retain the understanding, how we massage it into ourselves so that it becomes part of our way of being. In the third pot fault is to put new fresh food into a pot filled with old food. Although the fresh food may cover the moldy food, gradually the mold will spread. Well, from the Buddhist point of view, we have to think, okay, I have many opinions, bits of knowledge, information, ideas, which I rely on in order to carry out my life. And if I take this Buddhist understanding and kind of add it on as if it's a piece of Lego, then there's me plus a bit of Dharma. And I'm using Dharma to make me feel better. But there is no structural transformation to my basic sense of self. So this is seen generally as a big mistake. Because Buddhism rests with the 2 aspects, wisdom and compassion. These are compared to the 2 wings of a bird. With wisdom, we see the impermanent nature of phenomena and we start to see that they have no inherent self-nature. That allows us to relax and be spacious. This means that we start to see that the walls of our ego are transparent. We start with a sense of being truly separate from the world. And in that separation, we have a very limited capacity. Of course, we like to feel that we're big, but the fact is we get overwhelmed quite easily. Sometimes the ego feels like it's winning. I'm in charge, I can make use of this, I have my game plan, my strategy for life. This is a delusion. We are hardly in charge of our lives at all. We don't even know when we're going to die. We don't know what we're going to think and feel 10 minutes from now. So the danger of hubris is everywhere. Therefore, humility is very important. If you need to make money, it's a very good idea not to use Buddhism as a way to make money. Not because it's high and holy, but because it's a vast path of freedom. And freedom is not a commodity. Our freedom is based on our Buddha nature, the potential that we all have for being more awake. This is intrinsic and indestructible, although seemingly situationally hidden by the activity of our own thoughts, feelings, and sensations. So, we should use the paths of freedom to increase freedom. When we use the paths of freedom as commodities, we turn the unlimited into the limited. And this is not helpful at all. So in Dharma generally, it's structured according to the view, the meditation, the activity, and the result. It is due to not understanding the view clearly that people mix everything together. Sometimes people send me little articles by people like John Kabat-Zinn. When I read what he writes, it's like some food prepared by a blind cook, just grabbing things off the shelf and throwing them in the pot, and then saying research, research, research. So from traditional Buddhist point of view, this is very unhelpful, very unskillful. So this text is very pure. It has a view of Dzogchen.
It is unskillful, unhelpful, this kind of mindful movement. Because I think if people are very depressed, then it would be helpful, and then something would help another is good.
Sure, but you could teach it without any reference to Eastern thought at all. Pay attention to what is in front of you. Pay attention to what is happening. That's what I said. Every mother says this to a child. Mindfulness is just mama's good advice. I'm not saying that it's unhelpful. I'm saying if you want to have clarity, you need to know the lineage and the line of how things come. And if you mix it up, it's not so helpful. So at food time, with small children, you say, have you washed your hands? They say, yes. We say, show me. We say, these hands have not been washed. So the child has learned something very important, which is lying and cheating. That is to say, the idea that I have washed my hands is very quick. Going to the sink and actually washing my hands is boring. I have to do it every time? Couldn't I just do it once a year? So this is exactly mindfulness. Mindfulness means don't imagine that the idea of something is what it is. So this view of Dzogchen is, from the very beginning, the mind, which is the basis of how you are, of being here at all, of having any experience, has never been a thing, nor has it been a process. It is a space of clarity. This is not how we think about our life. We think, I am someone with particular qualities. I can do some things well, but other things not so well. I stand in relation to other people. But the view, the way of understanding, or the illumination is that from the very beginning, the ground of our being is ungraspable. It's not a construct. It doesn't need anything done to it. It doesn't require development. The ego always requires development. But awareness as the clarity of the ground, of the openness of our being, doesn't require any development at all. Therefore, the meditation that is linked with it is the meditation of non-meditation. It's not intentional. It's not directed towards something. So before the break, we did some of this basic Shine practice. This is an intentional practice. It gives you something to do. Before you sit down, you know what you have to do. You have to focus your attention on the breath. But because the mind from the very beginning has been pure, that is to say, unadulterated, not mixed up with anything else, it doesn't require any effort to improve it. Of course, ordinarily, we see ourselves in terms of our history, our family, our personality, the shape of our body, and so on. We feel ourselves to be something knowable. So the meditation that we will do later is about letting go of the fixation on creation and development. And the activity is responsive. And the result is to awaken to the unborn or the uncreated integrity of the dimensions of our existence. So he said we should go to a quiet place and consider ourselves and all sentient beings. That is to say, when we explore ourselves, we're also exploring other beings. We have thoughts, feelings, sensations. All human beings have thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Horses and dogs also have thoughts, feelings, and sensations. The content or the form of these thoughts, feelings, and sensations will be different. But the basic fact that this is what they are is not altered by that. Our world always includes other beings. We have sense organs which are constantly open to the environment, and what is our life is the experience of other people. We respond to phenomena in a way different from dogs and horses. But all creatures are engaged in interaction or communication with the environment, not just in terms of the development of the resources which are required for life, but in a non-utilitarian way, in a non-pragmatic way, there is the pleasure of the existence of the world around us. So we have compassion for those around us, if we feel some connection with them. If we decide that we don't have to be connected with other people, we can use them as things, as a means to an end. We can enslave them and sell them. There's a very big trade in young girls in Europe. Girls captured into sex slavery. The people who do this are not thinking of the welfare of the girls. The tears of the girls don't change their intention to sell them. We become aware that people can have more or less compassion. Compassion means to be touched and moved. If you can't be touched by the suffering of another person, you are switching off your capacity. You are diminishing yourself. And of course, once you diminish yourself, it's very easy to diminish other people. We say, I don't care. This is not just terrifying to someone else, but it's saying my capacity for caring, my capacity for empathic attunement, my capacity for connectivity is now being switched off. And then, how will I live? If I don't have care to warm my heart, if I don't have fellow feeling to make me feel alive, then of course we tend to choose power. This is a big theme in Western literature as well. For example, the story of Faustus, that you can sell yourself in order to get something. If you see the world as commodities, as things, then you can chop yourself up into pieces in order to acquire the things you need. You can betray and abandon people because you don't want to feel yourself. So in Buddhism there's a lot of emphasis on compassion. It means not turning away from the situation of others, being aware of suffering in what are called the 6 realms of samsara. You can read books and get a lot of elaborate descriptions of these realms. And these are the modalities of experience which arise as a consequence of ignoring the true ground of being. So, in this life already, some people are becoming more human and some people are becoming less human. This is the tragedy for many mothers. They have a son who they knew as someone inside their body, as a baby, and so on. Son goes to school, they meet other people, they get different ideas, and when they're a teenager, they start to get involved in a gang. The child is now under the sway of a new kind of cultural formation. The mother can hardly recognize her own son. She thinks, I never taught him to be like this. Why would he want to carry a knife when he walks in the street? This is very disturbing. People can choose violence. This is our existential choice. The direction of our life is not written. We don't get a map at birth that tells us how we have to proceed. We have to find our way. And that way arises with dependent co-origination. Small things can bump people off course. You have a school teacher who doesn't like you very much. You think, I don't like school. And you start to hang out with the other kids who don't like school. In that way, new formations arise just from one small incident. So, wisdom is to see how unstable our own lives are. That we have not led our lives in a straight line. And because of this, we can start to have sympathy and empathy for other people. When we do the basic meditation that we did earlier, and we realize how easily we become distracted and wander off, we start to see why people become distracted and turn their life in a very intense direction. Trauma cuts off the conscious self from its own potential, with a diminished sense of self in a heightened intensity of anxiety, fear, and hypervigilance. So when we see the structures which give rise to behavior, we see that people are unfolding processes of expanding and contracting potential. And within this, there is a ceaselessness to the unfolding. And then we might start to be suspicious of our own conclusions. How can we decide if someone is a good person or a bad person? What we can see is that due to causal factors, particular patterns of experience and reflection and enactment occur. If the only bandwidth of experience you have access to is what is consciously available as thoughts, feelings, memories, and so on, then you tend to be in an echo chamber of habit formation. But our mind is also spacious. And this spaciousness, as I was describing earlier, is not restricted or defined by particular pattern formations. When you start to see that, then compassion has some deeper meaning. We have compassion in all directions for all beings. We have as much compassion for the torturer as for the person who is tortured. As much compassion for the person who works in the slaughterhouse, in the abattoir, as for the animals. You might think this is terrible. The animal is innocent. The person killing them is being cruel. They don't have to do that work. This is a cruel person. This again is only half a sentence. This person is manifesting cruelty due to causes and conditions. Due to other causes and conditions, they will manifest in a different form. when you come to a final conclusion about someone, you put them in a box. In the last 100 years, there have been a lot of struggles for liberation from boxes. There have been many stages of the development of feminist thought. In the position of women in society in Western European countries is transformed beyond recognition. So when we look back and we read accounts of women 200 years ago, we can see that there were assumptions about the place of women in society. These were held by both women and men. Usually women had fewer opportunities for education. And if they're not educated, then you can say, look, they don't know anything, so why would you bother educating them? Same with racism and so on. So we see historically people have inhabited particular assumptions which have seemed true. But now we will no longer think they are true. Oh. People believed things were true and they weren't true. People did that. I am a person. Maybe I do that too. Maybe I should put my assumptions into question. This is like massaging yourself so that the tensions in the muscles relax and you feel more free. And you start to realize, oh, when I come to a conclusion about other people that they are bad or selfish or kind, these are situationally generated impressions. Our conclusion appears to be describing something inherent in the person. But when we start to see our own mind, we realize I am a process. Many different streams of experience are arising and meeting in me. I'm like a marketplace. So, sounds, smells, tastes, visual appearance, memory, sensation, so many factors are arising at once. What is it that's fixed about me? But I want to come to conclusions about other people. Impossible as it appears, some people like Joseph Stalin. We know that the Gestapo officers who were in charge of the concentration camps had wives and children. As far as we know, Eva Braun was willing to die together with Adolf Hitler in the bunker. So, when we think somebody is very bad, someone else sees something good in that. So what we're trying to see here is that what we take to be fully established truth generally is opinion or the view from here. In this way we start to see that the world is not so solid and fixed as we often take it to be. And for that reason, no matter what profile a particular person has at this time, we say, may you be happy, may you be enlightened. May the mosquitoes that drink my blood be enlightened. When they are drinking my blood, may my blood be a healing elixir that transforms their world into pleasure. So, in that way, when you stop freezing the world according to conclusions, your own creativity and connectivity can playfully transform what is arising. So whether we are studying or practicing, we always include all sentient beings, however they are. Everyone is welcome, because everybody is already here. The frog is doing frog, the cat is doing cat. Each of them is where it is. So the question is, where is it? But we won't find the answer to that question till we look at ourselves and really see, where am I? So wisdom and compassion flow together. So it says, at the moment we find ourselves having the freedoms and opportunities that support practice, so it's vital that we meditate on the impermanence of this life situation. So, generally described as being 18 freedoms and opportunities. So basically they have two aspects. One is that you are available and free to enter into Dharma, or study and practice. And secondly, that there is some Dharma available for you to study and practice. And that this Dharma that is available has been handed down from generation to generation without contamination, without mixing it up with anything else. The purity of the lineage is the reliability that we need to base ourselves on. If you mix the tradition up with ordinary human ideas, what you get can be interesting and marketable, but it's not what the Buddha taught. And although we live in a democracy and we want to have some notion of equal rights, it's important to recognize when something is different. It's not so much that the Buddha is higher and better than us, it's that the teachings of the Buddha are radically different from how we ordinarily understand the world. And so if we have the freshness of the lineage, we get the freshness of the actual living difference. Something can shift. When it says, you're lucky people, you have a chance to get this vision of the world, which is most unusual, but your situation is impermanent. On an outer level, we have a lot of climate change, a great deal of economic instability, lots of uncertainty about world trade. The president of China has announced very clearly that China's place in the world is going to be very, very big indeed. The basis of conflict is pervasive. And we live in a body. None of us know when we die. Babies die in the womb, at birth, at 2 years, at 10 years. There are many possibilities for dying already inside your body. Heart attacks, blood clots, the many, many kinds of cancer. Many ways to die. So we are going to die, and we don't know how or when. We learn a little bit about meditation, and we think, I'll do it when I retire. It's too late. The day to do it is now. Oh, but I want to go out with my friends. Have you been out with your friends before? Yes. Did you have a good time? Oh, and you want to do it again in order to have another good time. But if the first good time was a really good time, how come it vanished? Oh, the Buddha talked about impermanence. So you keep having to have a good time. And no matter how intense and amazing and special and wonderful the good time is, it vanishes. Who is the one who had the good time? Me. Me. I had it. Who are you? I'm me. Tell me about you. I told you I'm the one that had the good time. We can say many things like this. Essentially, they are ways of saying, fuck off. I exist. That's enough. Do not go any further. We exist like a military camp with signs on the wall. Do not go over the fence. Danger. Listen, I believe I'm me, and if you like me at all, you will believe I'm me too. And this is what a lot of friendships are. They are associations for the mutual maintenance of the delusion of the individual ego self. But we are going to die. So the question, who am I, is maybe quite interesting. Because if I don't have a clear understanding of the range of my potential, it may be that I waste my life. If you're a young man and you spend 10 years playing computer games all the time, now you're 22 and you kiss a girl for the first time. Shit, what did I do with my teenage years? I was looking at a screen and there are girls. Yeah, people do that. They spend their life in work. Their project is very important. Maybe for money it's necessary. But life goes by and then you die. So who were you while you were working? You plus your work role. I am a school teacher. I have to control the class, but also encourage them to learn. This is the theater of samsara. And then we die. Whether you get a big round of applause at the end or the theater is empty, you still die. So if we have any deep curiosity about ourselves and the world and how it is and what the Buddha was saying, now is the time to really engage. We don't have so much free time. When you're young, you're trying to study and establish a life and get a job and so on. Then you have kids and the kids grow up, and then your parents are old and sick and you have to look after them a bit. There is always something to do. And then if you get interested in Buddhism, you find, oh my God, now there are so many other things I could do. The advantage of what we're going to be looking at is that it is very easy to integrate with daily life. You're not having to do anything in particular except be present. And we'll get more sense of how to be present. As we saw from doing this, from doing this earlier practice, we get distracted very easily. I get distracted. I think I'm present. That's a thought. But when I actually look, I see I'm easily distracted. So the idea that I'm present may be a lie. I'm on automatic pilot. I'm not really here because I'm preoccupied. So we have the outer level of impermanence, but the next important level is to really be aware of the impermanence of all our thoughts and memories and so on. So if I ask, what's the best summer holiday you ever had? Something comes to mind. Some place, maybe some people with you, the quality of the weather. Now we think, what's the most difficult mathematical problem that you've ever solved? I hope you have no memory of that because that was school. So we have a selective memory. Most of what we've learned, we've forgotten. And even if we think about the best summer holiday ever, we're not there. And even if the echo, the trace of it is heartwarming, it doesn't stay in our mind very long. Oh, the constituents of myself dissolve as they arise. This is not something you have to believe. Observe for yourself the arising and passing of sensation in the body. Thoughts and feelings are coming and going. When you have a thought, just attend to it. How long is it there for? 1 second. Then another thought. A stream of thoughts, but each one is dissolving. Like the waves in the ocean. There are always waves, but each wave arises and vanishes. So if you really see this directly, and the only thing that stops us seeing it directly is being distracted. If we see it directly, then the world is different. Everything is dynamic. So attachment is attachment to what? If phenomena are fleeting, what are we attached to? It is concepts. And they are abstractions. They are not concrete. Yet we believe they are concrete. So someone might say, I have 2 children. They have an idea of their children. They might feel they love their children, but the children are breathing in and out by themselves. They have their own eyes, their own ears, they live in the world of their own sensory impressions. If they survive, they grow up and they leave home and they have a life of their own. Well, you might think, oh yes, I have 2 children, but I haven't seen them for a while because one's in Australia and one's in America. Of course there are concrete children, but we don't know what they're doing. The object of the mother's attachment is the idea. And the idea supports the delusion of the continuing presence of my children. So we're going to have a break now. You know, when we have the break and we go outside, try just to be aware of how you are is influenced by what you encounter. Right? When you go out the front door, there's a big world within which you have selective attention, because we have habits of editing out many phenomena. And then we can see how we attribute value, seeing this is good, that is bad. If you eat with other people, you can see that they choose different food from you. They have a different quality of sensorium. My life is arising as choices. Choices which arise due to the particular patterning of my self-constellation within my experience of what is revealed as the possibilities of the world. So in that way you become more aware of the dynamic experience of being alive moment by moment. This is the exquisite ungraspability of our being alive.